un video y comenzamos. Muchísimas gracias.
Rebecca, you have greetings from Jean Lebel.
A big hug.
Catalyst 2030 started life as a WhatsApp group among social entrepreneurs, connecting to envision real transformational change. Launched at the World Economic Forum in January 2020, it's grown into a global movement accelerating change to ensure the SDGs are reached by 2030. Fueled by passion, our 550 members working in 175 countries have collectively put in an amazing 50,000 volunteer hours, touching the lives of 2 billion people. And we're driven by values, to which we hold ourselves accountable. 2020 was a busy year, co-creating 3 reports with partners and producing one of our own. Inviting high-level guests to participate in the Catalyzing Change campaign, hosting fireside chats and expert hours, which will be continuing in 2021. To celebrate our achievements, together we placed our supporters in the limelight with the first Catalyst 2030 Awards for Systemic Change. With the blessing of the Dalai Lama, we celebrated finalists and winners in the following categories: special recognition for our early supporters, individual philanthropists, donor organizations, philanthropic intermediaries, corporate organizations, bi- and multilateral organizations, and 4 regional winners in the category of national governments. And now on to Catalyzing Change Week 2021. During this social entrepreneur-led event, we bring together diverse stakeholders in over 100 sessions to showcase their systems change efforts and the best practices that can accelerate our work in pursuit of the SDGs.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me, and I hope you're all well wherever you are. I am so excited to be here with you today. My name is Erin Tansey. I am the director of the International Development Research Center's program division called the Sustainable Inclusive Economies Division. I am sitting here in Ottawa, Canada, where we're waiting for spring, but it hasn't really arrived yet. And I just want to welcome you all and really thank you so much for taking the time. We've got just such a wonderful event planned for you today. As you know, we are in the midst of a terrible crisis in humanity. COVID has exacerbated economic systemic inequalities and injustices. In the midst of hard news, it seems to come every single day, including what's the terrible events that are happening in Colombia right now, for which we send our thoughts and wishes to everyone there. But in certain places, there's also hope for a better future. And so today we're actually celebrating progress in the business for good environment and business for good movement, which has also stepped up in providing urgent solutions to address health, social, and the economic impacts of COVID-19. So as we get inspiration from this business and investment movement as a force for good, we will learn from strategies and lessons to accelerate systemic change for good for people and planet. We will learn from IDRC partners such as Sistema Bay on purpose-driven businesses such as B Corps, B corporations, including the recently certified B Corp company, Juan Valdez Coffee Company, which I'm sure you all know well. And we will also learn about impact investment and what it can do to drive business action towards achieving the SDGs. So with the system change perspective, IDRC has also been supporting research on public policies to accelerate the transition to a new economy. Panelists will also highlight the role of public policies, such as public procurement, regulations, and new legal forms of business incorporation. The COVID pandemic has absolutely exacerbated persistent gender inequalities that were present long before the crisis. But to build forward better and accelerate a much needed transition to a new and more sustainable and equitable economy, gender equality should be really a key driver of our actions, as I'm sure we'll all agree. So we'll also discuss this important topic. So before jumping into the discussion, I just want to give you a couple of housekeeping pieces. One is that this is being recorded and it will be available on the IDRC YouTube channel, maybe sometime later today or in the very near future. And then also that I really encourage you to share or send questions to us via the chat, because we will be having a Q&A discussion at the end of the event. So let me now, I'm so excited to introduce you to our amazing women speakers, all women speakers today. So the first person I'd like to introduce you to, of course, is Rebecca Grynspan. She is the Secretary General of the Iberoamerican General Secretariat. But before her leadership at SEGIB, she was named in 2010 Under Secretary General for the United Nations and Associate Administrator of UNDP. And prior to joining UNDP and the UN, Ms. Greenspan served as the Vice President of Costa Rica. She was also Minister of Housing, Minister Coordinator of Economic and Social Affairs, and Deputy Minister of Finance. A long list of accomplishments. We also have Camila Lopez. She is a political scientist and anthropologist from Los Andes University with an MBA focused on sustainability from Exeter University in England. And for almost 10 years, she's been working on building partnerships, stakeholder management, and corporate sustainability. She has worked in different sectors and industries, from NGOs to beverage and the food industry. So she's currently the sustainability manager at Pro Café Call, or otherwise known as Juan Valdez, and which is one of the most iconic Colombian coffee brands. And it, as I just mentioned, it just achieved its own certification as a B Corp earlier this year. We also will be hearing from Laura Ortiz Montemayor. She is a social entrepreneur, founder of SVX Mexico, and an advocate for impact investing. She also works on non-extractive finance and regenerative culture. And so during the past years, Laura's work has focused on driving social, economic, and environmental justice through impact investment and social entrepreneurship. She's also specifically looking at education, and she does quite a bit of consulting as well. Laura's mission is to make impact investment the rule and not the exception. So we'll definitely want to hear what she has to say. And then finally, María Emilia Correa. She is the co-founder of Sistema Bay and the director of Academia Bay. She is an agent of change and committed entrepreneur. She specializes in sustainability of companies. So she's also members of several board of directors, and advises companies on triple impact businesses. So I'm sure you're as excited as I am. what I'll do now is ask a general question to all the panelists, the same question for all of them, and then I will get into specific questions for each of the panelists. So let me start with you, Rebecca, if I may. If you could just tell me what the key or main messages that you will cover with the audience today, and what are the most important things to transform our economic system?
Thank you so much, Erin. And let me just say hello to Camila, to María Emilia, to Laura, to Carolina that is here with us, and to Luis Pizarro that is in charge of the area in SEGIB to carry this research. And my warmest congratulations to IDRC, because we are here today because you received the award of that it was given to you by Catalyst 2030 Network. So congratulations to IDRC. Thank you for partnering with us. Well, I really believe, Erin, that this transformation already began. So what we are trying to do is to scale it up, to help it be the mainstream and not the complement. Yes. And it's very interesting that we see this new generation of purpose-driven entrepreneurs, yes, that really want to make it in the market, but make a difference in society. And it's very interesting that this panel is all women. And it's interesting, but not surprising, because women have embraced these purpose-driven enterprises very early on. And we have several indicators saying that women have been a very important driving force for this new way of doing business. And we know that these companies have a variety of forms, yes, from B Corps, as you said, to cooperatives, to circular economy, to impact investment, to fair trade. So we have, this is an animal with many, it's an octopus, yes? It's not one form of doing this. We have several. This is transforming itself in an ecosystem, yes? And like any ecosystem, it has different living animals in it. And but what is it that makes it a new way of doing business is the purpose, the drive that your only objective is not to maximize your profits. Yes, that you want to make a change in doing the business, not after the business. In doing what you do, you want to make a difference in terms of inclusiveness, in terms of sustainability, in terms of the community you are engaged with or where your firm or enterprise is. So that's the common part, but you will address this in many different forms. And I would say that one of the main things we need to do to scale this up, to make it the mainstream, is the issue of the legal framework. Mm-hmm. And this is not a minor point. And many of the countries of Latin America have been implementing, passing through legislation with respect to triple impact firms, etc. But they are, in a way, in a trial mode, and we need to help this movement in terms of doing it better, because if we don't have a good legal framework, what is happening is that many of the newborn firms or enterprises born in the wrong way, and so you need to transform them later. So we need to do it on in the opposite direction. We need the ones that have been born before, before global warming was a real threat, before inequality it was not as scandalous as it is today, before gender equality was an issue, we need to transform them into the new legal framework, not the other way around. And I think that this is probably a keystone that we need to put in for this to scale up and to continue developing. And obviously we need the appropriate public policies. And you mentioned some of them already, Erin. I am not going specifically into it, but we need the sustainable public procurement. We need tax models that are appropriate. We need certification models. We will hear about that from María, Emilia and others in this panel. And I think that if we have legal frameworks, good public policies in tax and procurement, and also certification models that are robust, I think that we will have the main pillars of how to scale up the efforts that have already begun by many entrepreneurs that are very committed to a different model of society. And I think that that's the main point. And I think that the pandemic just to finish, the pandemic has shown the importance of doing that because we won't build back better if the recovery will be with more inequality, with more poverty, and with more harm to the environment. That doesn't deserve the name of recovery, yes? We want to go to a recovery that will be different, and this is a keystone for doing that.
Thank you, Rebecca. That's a really excellent overview, and we're going to get into all those details as we go along. I know you're such a good supporter of IDRC because you said that we won the Catalyst 2030 award. We were just a runner-up, but it was like we won. So
okay.
Yeah,
I didn't have the right information, but for me, you have the award.
Thank you. Okay, so let me move on to Camila Lopez. Maybe you can just give us a quick outline of what your key messages are, and then we'll get into the detail as we move along.
Thank you, Erin. I would like to say first, thank you very much. I feel incredibly honored being here with all of you. Thank you, Rebecca, for such an inspiring start. And okay, I just wanna tell you a little bit about who we are. In case you don't know, we are Juan Valdez, a Colombian coffee company, probably one of the most iconic brands in the country, as we represent more than 500,000 producers of coffee growers in Colombia. We trade premium Colombian coffee around the world. We have presence in 30 countries. So saying that, I will say 3 key points that considering what already Rebecca said, I will bring to the table. First, the sustainability strategy in the case of the corporate sustainability must be in the core business. In this sense, it must contribute to the solution of the main social and environmental problems of our time. We cannot be blind with the situation that the world is living today, right? It is imperative for businesses to develop solid and traceable supply chains, to cite their environmental externalities, and to watch over the well-being of their stakeholders, communities, employees, and all who surround our business. And third, this is just possible with a multi-stakeholder approach, where the business partner with the NGOs, government, private sector, different industries, and even competitors. That's why we are here, right? With different sectors talking about really pressing social and environmental issues. And definitely, that's one of the reasons why we got engaged into the bigger movement, because we found it as a way of engaging, of being part of something bigger and purposeful. And last but not least, all these points must be related with the SDG agenda. It's very important to acknowledge and recognize this agenda as a globally agreed path to really address and solve the main social and environmental challenges of our time. That's what I would like to say.
Thank you, Camila. And I should have just mentioned to the audience that initially we had hoped to have Camila Escobar present, the CEO, but she has been things are going on in Colombia that I think have taken her attention. So thank you so much, Camila, for stepping in at such short notice. And it's wonderful to have you. And I look forward to hearing more about those points you've just raised. Okay, over to Laura.
Yes, thank you, Erin and Carolina, for organizing this. And I just wanted to, question when we talk about scale, if we can only think bigger or if we can also think better and deeper. Because in terms of investment, massive amounts have already moved into, some environmental or social considerations, but I think we're missing a little bit of depth. So I'm going to go a little bit into that in the next questions. But I also wanted to say that if we're moving into a regenerative economy, we have to address that Latin America is one of the most biodiverse continents in the world, and it has the top countries in biological wealth. So we must really lead towards regeneration, and there's a lot that other countries can learn from the stewards of biodiversity that are indigenous peoples and indigenous communities in Latin America. So thinking about that, I just want to redefine what the economic system is valuing, and just remembering that biodiversity is everyone's only life insurance. And so we must really make biodiversity an impact imperative and not a charity case or an optional investment. And those are the key points that I will be developing in the panel.
Wonderful, thank you. And last but not least, María Emilia.
Thank you so much, Erin, and obviously thank you so much, Carolina and IDRC, for organizing this panel. I can only say that I join in what every wonderful woman before me has said. It's wonderful to have a panel that not only coincides so much in our views and our ideas, but those ideas have been expressed with such articulate way and with such strength and conviction. So I can only join in. And I would like to add a couple of things. I think that this panel shows something that is fundamental, which is that we are doing systemic perspective here. We are doing it. We're not just talking about it, we are doing it. Because we have the perspective of public policies, we have the perspective of research and academia, we have business itself, we have civil society organizations and certifications at the same time in the panel. And I think that is the right way to speak about the construction of the future. Because the topic is obviously business, but business on its own will never be the only actor that is able to build the future we want. So I think that the way this panel has been constructed is already extraordinary. Thank you so much for that. I am Colombian and I live in Chile. So as you can imagine, I cannot avoid mentioning what's going on in Chile and Colombia today. It's been, I think Camila and I have been talking, we are both extremely concerned and sad and very worried about what's going on. And I think we always think about this construction of the role of business in the construction of future and the participation of systemic perspective for 2030. And we're always giving this sort of a long time perspective. I think this is the right moment to speak about the role of business and all of us in crisis. And I think it's as important to think about the future as to act during the crisis. And I think that further to what Rebecca said, that I totally agree with, business has a fundamental task to change the way we act inside, the way we produce, the way we distribute goods and services. We need legal frameworks, we need public policies for sure, but that's our first task, and it's a task that is, I think, ongoing. But I think there's a second task that seems a bit harder, which is what Camila was mentioning, and is the fact that we as business are part of society. And business is used to talk very much on our own and within our own. And I think that the step that business has to take right now is to realize that we are part of society. And particularly during crisis, it is fundamental that we keep these multi-stakeholder approaches going and that business joins in with citizenship. I think that it is a big mistake, this idea of separating society in front of a crisis, saying, you know, the army is one side, the government's in the other, citizens are in the other, business are in the other. We are all in the crisis. Everyone is in the crisis. So as the same as we are all in the future, it is the role for all of us to build the world in which we want to live. So I think that the second task that is in front of business today is to learn to be a part of multi-stakeholder groups, to actually realize that we are part of society and join in with citizens to build to solve the crisis in the moment and to build the future of the world.
Thank you so much. Yes, and I mean, I could add on to what you just said just by, you know, quickly mentioning all the work that you have done in bringing a wider audience to the possibilities of regenerative business models by creating Academia Bay and other work that you've done, which allows, you know, academia, for instance, to be involved in this whole conversation. So thank you so much for that work. I am conscious of time, so I'm going to now move to the individual questions. I had originally thought I would give 5 minutes for each person to answer their question, but let's try and make it 4, just so that we can keep to give us a little bit of time for questions at the end. So I'm going to turn now to Camila, who's the manager of sustainability at Juan Valdez, as we've said. So Camila, you are, you know, working in an organization of one of the world's most well-known coffee brands, and you're part of a team leading the company transformation for shared value, including becoming a B Corp, certified B Corp. Well, why did you do that, and what does this mean in practice? Can you give our audience some practical understanding of what this means, and how can business action be catalytic for the wider economic transformation that we need to see? Over to you.
Thank you for your question, Erin. Okay, as I was saying, as you probably know, coffee is a well-known industry which has been pivotal for the economy, social cohesion, and identity in rural communities, as well as around the whole country. It's really a very important activity. But we are part of something bigger. In 1927, a non-for-profit organization, actually, National Federation of Coffee Growers, was created with the purpose of generating value to the coffee growing families, to representing the interests of those families in Colombia. From that moment onwards, Colombia has been a very strong institutionality, very strong institutional structure around the coffee, addressing not just the industry by itself, but the needs of those communities who live from coffee harvesting. In this sense, when we were set by the National Federation of Coffee Growers, who is our main shareholder in 2002, we were created to assist that value chain at the last stage of the value chain, trading coffee, trading premium Colombian coffee. Since that moment, we have worked for 540,000 coffee growing families. Most of them are small coffee producers. Let's say 99% out of the total population of coffee producers are small and medium, no more than 5 hectares. And that has really important implications for the way that we are addressing their necessities and their needs and the programs that we are developing for them. Actually, approximately 42% is population under poverty, and that has really clear implications for the way that we are approaching them. That's why in 2019, as you mentioned, we have defined share value as the main objective of our company. Not about the sustainability strategy, which I lead, but the main goal for our company. That means that it's turning to be part of the core business. And that is a way of approaching to all our stakeholders. generating shared value to all our stakeholders, of course, including probably the most important one, the coffee growers, these small coffee producers. Our business in this way considers the triple bottom line, seeking to align all the business, all the strategy about trading this premium coffee around the world with social and environmental performance. And actually, this is portrayed in our KPIs. This is portrayed in the way that we are assessing risk management. This is the way that we are giving accountability to our board of directors. This is going through the whole strategy. It's not just a matter of Camila Escobar, the CEO, who is totally convinced about this, or it's not about myself, I am in charge of all this strategy. It's about the whole company. We hold a very strong responsibility within our value chain. We understand that the only sustainable and competitive way of bringing value to them is through our core business. And since then, we have been trying to turn the social programs into market opportunities. For us, it's the only way of doing it. We choose to build relationships with our coffee suppliers, with our communities, where we can translate their the most pressing social issues that they live into innovative initiatives. And I think that's the key point for share value. For example, our Women Coffee Program. We work with these women who represent 30% out of the total population of coffee producers in Colombia. Yet there persists a lot of inequalities in terms of land access, technification, in terms of commercialization, training, and other structural challenges. And that's why we have built this program that sources coffee, a packaged coffee, 100% sourced by women associations. Actually, this year, I'm very proud, I'm very happy because we are very soon about to launch this program, this edition, which is going to be a product line. I mean, it's going to be for from here onwards in our portfolio. Also, and very important, we are looking for addressing this way the SDG 5. And also we have another very important program that I want to highlight here, which is with young population, because we know that this is a population, not just in Colombia, around the globe, that needs attention and needs to find opportunities. Opportunities and rural areas are turning even more difficult in this time. So we are trying to achieve better opportunities for them through our program in the same way. And we look for that at 3 ways: buying the coffee at a premium price, strengthening communities and human and technical capabilities through multi-stakeholder initiatives, and communicating. We think it's very important to engage all our stakeholders through a main goal, which is generating value to these coffee growers, to contribute to the growing of these and development of the rural areas in Colombia. And also, climate change has been part of our agenda too, identifying all the externalities that we have in our business and trying to address them through our operation and our value chain. And I just want to finish to move, so you can move into other panelists, talking again about our certified record. To become certified record has been the way of putting all these things together about purpose, about innovative ways of fighting this reality, of fighting these challenges that the society and the environment is posing, and the way that we are also trying to approach in a responsible and conscious way with our own business through this amazing community that María Emilia has founded, and we feel absolutely honored of being part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Camila. Thank you very much. I wondered if you had a way to maybe change your audio, because you were breaking a little bit, maybe for afterwards when we have our discussions. And yeah, I think hopefully we'll be able to be directed to the resource place where people can find out more about how can they actually become B Corp certified. So let me move on to Laura Ortiz, who's the founder of CVX in Mexico, as I've said. And again, about 4 or 5 minutes for you to answer the following question. You are the Chief Purpose Officer for an organization that cultivates investment in life regenerating companies and gender equality for systems change. So how can investment support our economic systems change? How can impact investment move from a boutique sector to transform the mainstream of capital markets? Over to you, Laura.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So the good news is that it is already transforming the mainstream capital markets. As I said, in the past couple of years, we have been hearing about like all records being broken in terms of the massive amounts of capital flowing into the investments that have environmental and social considerations. But the challenge now is, if we really want to unleash the full potential, we have to go way deeper into impact investments' power to question and to dismantle the status quo of the most entrenched paradigms of investment. So I want to, start questioning this. We have confused investment with speculation a lot of times. I even dare to say sometimes we confuse it with gambling, and we have confused value with price, and we have confused exponential growth with well-being. And the speed of returns has become sometimes like a drug for decision-making behavior. So we need to remember that health is the new wealth, and that our planet's health is a reflection of our human health right now in this pandemic. So I just want to reflect the fact that this current financial system and the underlying beliefs that support it are the ones that are generating the rampant inequality, the social injustice, the environmental destruction. So we need to ask ourselves, what am I investing in? And what structures of powers and power dynamics am I continuing? Am I perpetuating? And is there a way that investment can be distributive by design instead of accumulative by design? And we must even ask, about the purpose of capital. The ultimate purpose of capital shouldn't be its eternal reproduction. It should be freedom, balance, well-being, and so we need to ask ourselves if we're investing in service of life, living systems, and biodiversity, or if we are just exploiting them. And basically, investing is a social construct. So we can reinvent it, we can reimagine it, we can, instead of investing to control more, we can invest to liberate more, because freedom is a prerequisite for justice, and justice is a prerequisite for peace. And peace, of course, is a prerequisite for thriving life. So it is very important that we take this consideration very seriously, that capital should not be used for control, because if it's used for control, it is a path to social injustice. So if we really need to transform, the results of investing, we should transform our understanding and beliefs of the capital flows and the economic system, because the real debt that we have is to our planet. And to repay it, we must recognize that we have, a lot of savings in the wisdom stored for billions of years in the ecosystem and indigenous communities. They are the best stewards for biodiversity. And really, to decolonize finance is vital in order to repay this ecological debt. And sometimes people ask me, if they need to give up returns as a trade-off for impact. And I think we have never really known return investments at all. I mean, investment returns at all. The returns that await us is an abundance that is way beyond, what an Excel spreadsheet or a financial statement can hold. So we can let go of the black and white financial return, and we can open our eyes to, exuberant, wild beauty of collective abundance with all of its colors. But we can only do that if we learn from the most generous bank in the history of our planet, which is the soil. So in the soil, you deposit one seed, and it gives you food and clothing and shadow. And soil is distributive by design, and it's nurturing by design. And that is the way our decision-making in investment should be. So really, really, finance and finance decision makers, we have to fall in love with life. And then our kids, will inherit paradise. And I hope regeneration will be inevitable. But I always say, you know, we're not here in impact investing and in social enterprise to make the world a little bit better for a little bit of people, but rather to co-create the best version of the world for all. So that is why I think it is very important what Maria Emilia said about, you know, addressing it systemically. And I think we don't need an incremental change, we need a radical one.
Thank you so much. What beautiful and powerful imagery. Oh my God, my eyes are tearing up. It's just beautiful to hear you speak like that. It's really inspiring. So let me turn to Secretary General Rebecca Grynspan for also quick intervention, 3 or 4 minutes in answering the question. You know, we've just heard this inspiring discussion about business and investments that are doing good. So for you, what is the role of public policies for these business and investments in order for the norm or rather it to be the norm rather than the exception?
Well, I think that we said that before, Erin, is little to add to that. We need the legal framework, we need the right tax system, we need the incentives for the supply chain. I think that it was mentioned. I think that is very important for public procurement. We need to change behavior. Yes, and we need to put these stones there to change behavior. But let me turn then to one point that it was made by all of you, and Maria Emilia made that too. That is the quality of leadership. I think that one of the things that is happening now is that we understood with the crisis and the pandemic that a public space is very important. And there is a revalorization of public space. But we need to understand that public space is not only government. Public space is what we do together. And it would be a mistake to go only for public policy. What we need is really to make it, to build this public space with businesses, with government, with citizenship, with the whole society. And I think that we need a different social pact, a different social contract. And business has to be part of that of that change. And leadership, I probably never in my life, I saw so clearly that the quality of leadership will decide our future. And the quality of leadership is political leadership, but it's also business leadership, and it's also a civil society leadership. And so I would stress that point, that you need good leaders and you need quality leaders to make the change, and you need it everywhere because we turn always to government only, and we need to turn to the leadership of business, especially in this crisis. I really believe so, and we have to support the good leadership and give it a space to Laura said, co-create, you know, reimagining differently our model of taking care of life, taking care of the planet. And that's why the gender issues are so important also to include here, because the care society is something that we women have fought for a very, very long time.
Thank you so much. That's, yeah, leadership. Wow, if we can get that right, hey. All right, Maria Emilia, I'll come to you now. You are, of course, the co-founder of Sistema B. You founded an organization which has systems change in its own name, Sistema B. So why is it so important to have this broader ecosystem perspective for economic transformation? And what is needed to further strengthen the ecosystem for this economic systems change? I think you mentioned it slightly at the beginning, but if you could elaborate. And also talk a little bit about the role of research and academia. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. Further to what has been said right before me, I think that I would like to use an example. after the first social disturbances in Chile in 2019, two universities, Universidad de Chile and Universidad Católica, got together and created a fascinating project called We Have to Speak About Chile, Tenemos que hablar de Chile, which uses every capacity of the universities to use artificial intelligence, technological abilities, and they have managed to start public dialogues that are totally diverse, inclusive, open to all through the country of Chile. These dialogues have invited anyone who wants to join to a conversation about Chile. And that conversation happened all through 2020. Now we have the results of that conversation. Now we have the real voice of thousands and thousands of people. So the universities, what they are doing right now is understanding what people said and transmitting it to us. Those dialogues would never have happened if businesses had not been part of that project, supporting financially, obviously, but also being part of the project as well. Citizens in general, politicians, public policies, because we cannot hear the voice of the country if only certain groups speak about the country. So if we want to have a democracy that is more active and more participant, and we want to open opportunities for many, we need academia. We need people who are doing research. We need people who are teaching all of us to think about the future in a different way, and particularly to act for the future in a different way. And we have to learn to act together. So most of our education in the past has been, let's say, oriented towards competition. We need to learn collaboration. Collaboration is really hard, you know, I mean, if we have been in this quarantine with the people we love most and collaborating with these people has been so hard, imagine, because the challenge of the world is to collaborate with people we don't like, people we don't trust, people we don't want to be friends with, people we don't want to see, but those are the people whom we need to collaborate with. We need to learn that. So the way we educate people is fundamental in the way we all behave. So I think that, and what is happening right now is that this project started by these universities is going to Colombia. And we're starting a multi-stakeholder dialogue all through Colombia with universities in Colombia, with businesses in Colombia, citizens, academia, and everyone. So this is just an example that I think brings to life the importance of everyone working together, and each one has his or her own role. You know, I'm not a researcher, I'm not a teacher, I'm an entrepreneur, but researchers and teachers have a fundamental role. If they don't join in, there's nothing I can do to be able to build such a dialogue like they did, right? I can bring financial support, I can bring business ideas, whatever, but I cannot bring what they bring. And they cannot bring what I bring, right? So I think that this is a perfect example of why we need everyone, because life is like a kaleidoscope, right? And we have all these different perspectives that in the end create much stronger and resilient solutions than any of us on our own is able to produce. So that's why Sistema B is called Sistema B, because we started with this perspective. You know, we cannot promote a new economy, we cannot create a new society, we cannot reach the 2030 agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, if we don't act together. So that's why we're called Sistema B, because the idea is let's work together and let's collaborate. So if I want to leave everyone with a word, is the word collaboration. And collaboration, like dialogue, is not just, okay, let's be together and say, what, you know, a couple of things and change a couple of ideas with the people I like, you know, diversity, as long as it looks like me. The real collaboration and the real diversity are those collaborations and diversity that happen within different worldviews. Not only race, not only ethnia, not only age, but worldviews. We need to be able to learn to collaborate between different worldviews. So that's, I think, the summary of Sistema B and the sort of the influence of why we do what we do.
Thank you, Maria Mina. That is, yes, absolutely. I can't agree more. Collaboration, and it just makes me think, here we are with this all-women panel. And I read recently that way back in the 40s, I guess, one of a doctor, a psychiatrist came up with that whole fight or flight response idea about, what do you do in response to stress? And of course, that doctor that did that study only used men as his subjects to study. And the study was redone then in, I don't know, the year 2000 or so by a female psychiatrist, and she looked at women. And what she found actually was that women in response to stress, rather than fight or flight, tend and befriend. So they tend to gather, to deal with and to gather people around. And I really do believe that women have a wonderful role to play in promoting collaboration as an essential skill. And here you are doing just that. So I know we have just a few minutes, 10 minutes left, and we do have some questions. The first question is for Secretary General Greenspan. The question is, how can large companies make the transition to more sustainable models, and how can the multilateral system help?
Well, I think that it's a difficult question because one may think about, can we put the right incentives for that? But I think that is happening because of a different reason. First of all, I think that if they want to have a long-term presence, they have to align their objectives to the values of the new generations. And I think that is a powerful force for change. The companies that are not short-term companies, those that think that they will be there for the long run, they will have to align with the changes that are happening in the new generations that are much more aware of the planet and much more. And I think that here in this panel, we had a very good example of that and of the young leadership, with different objectives. I think that is one of those. The second is to disseminate the data that is telling us very clearly, that the companies that are more on the objectives of ESG are doing much better than the ones that are not. And I think that that is not very well known, but is more and more clear, even for the big investment funds. The letter of Larry Fink, the letter of several weeks ago, saying the companies that had ESG did much better than the others, and so the big funds are moving in that direction. I think that will be part of the big incentive for that. And basically, I think that the force of the change is going to take big businesses in the transformation. The problem will be how to accelerate change. Not if change will happen, but how to accelerate change. And I think that is really the big question that we all have.
Great, thank you. That was very, very comprehensive. Lots of food for thought. So I'm just going to go to the next question, which is sort of for the panel. Let me read it out. The question is, what would you recommend for SMEs to introduce into their companies for a triple impact strategy? And how can we let them see which should not wait to overcome the COVID-19 crisis? I'm not sure. So basically, what would you recommend for SMEs to introduce into their companies to make them move towards a triple impact strategy? Maybe I can just ask Laura or Camila.
Yes, so I think as you know, was previously mentioned, the leadership of the companies is key, because at the end, any company manifests the company's essence as the founder's essence. So if there is no deep realization within the leadership about how crucial sustainability is to their own business, you know, so maybe sustainability seems expensive, but you know, becoming completely obsolete is even more expensive, right? Or not surviving is even more expensive. So I think there has to be a fundamental change in the understanding of the beliefs of the founders, of the leaders, but also inside of the company, of course, about the values and what is valuable in order for the business to perdure or to, you know, overcome challenges. So I think it is important for everyone to address the long-term effects and not just, you know, the short-term needs, because we might be sacrificing, you know, some very important social and natural capital for the short-term needs. So we need to be very disciplined in questioning what we're believing in order to manifest into business behavior and investment behavior. And I think the leader's essence and their own transformation is part of the company's transformation.
Great, thanks. I just have, we've got time for one more question, and I'm going to actually direct that one to Camila. It's coming from Toronto, and it's about the quality of leadership. So many leaders, including in Brazil and Colombia, use pro-business rhetoric in their campaigns and later do real harm to sustainability and equality initiatives. How can the business community be mobilized for the goals of Catalyst 2030, or the SDGs, in the face of this right-wing rhetoric? Over to you, Camila, and very, very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you. Well, very pertinent for this moment that we are living. I hope that now you can hear me properly. Definitely, I think the most important is that this is a matter of not just the business, it's a dialogue. As all my incredible panelists have shared before, definitely we need to find consensus and we need to hear the voice of others. And I think that that's the point for building these strategies in the midst of all what is happening, but also with the leadership that we held as companies, as executives in companies. I agree with Laura what she just said. I think it comes to here, it's pertinent also to mention it, the importance of having leaders who really believe in the power of transformation, in the power of business for doing good. And from that, we need to find a way of listening to others, listen those that we are affecting with our businesses, those communities that are maybe are voiceless usually, as for example, in our case, the communities, rural communities. In that way, we are gonna find a right path of doing things different, listening what they need, and amplify their voices, not speaking for them necessarily, but amplify their voices with all respect and all equality, with really pluralism and diversity. I think that's the only way for avoiding really extremisms like the question is posing. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that was quick and comprehensive and within time. So we've come to the end of this really fascinating discussion. Wasn't enough time to cover all the things, of course, that we'd love to talk about, but there are other events coming up that I'll mention in a moment. And I know that my colleague Carolina has been posting some links to various resources and documents and so forth. So please take a look at that. Really, thank you to all of our 4 panelists. It's just been absolutely fascinating, and thanks for taking the time. I know everybody's very, very busy. So I just wanted to, give a few closing remarks to this. Just to say that IDRC has supported Sistema Bay International to create GTRE, which is the International Working Group for a Triple Impact Economy Reactivation, with the objectives to present concrete policy proposals in response to COVID towards a triple impact economy. So GTRE has mapped over 40 policies, consolidated 12 of them in alignment with the 2030 agenda, and selected 3 to present and work with public leaders across Latin America and the Caribbean. The 3 selected proposals are triple impact public procurement, that's 1, benefit corp legislation, that's 2, and legal institutional framework for impact investing and impact businesses. So we've also just heard that IDRC has partnered with SEGIB and UNDP and regional researchers to analyze and propose public policies to accelerate transition to a triple impact economy. This includes public procurement, fiscal incentives, new legal forms for business, etc. So between the 26th and the 28th of May, so that's in a couple of weeks, in collaboration with Sistema, with UNDP, with CAF, with SEGIB, IDRC is supporting a high-level international gathering to discuss these policies and the report and the findings that brings together pioneering political leaders, maybe some presidents, maybe not, we'll see, to talk about economic innovation. So we'll launch the results of the international project and make the research reports available, even if you can't come to the event. So the outcome is to create a Latin American community of policymakers and leaders committed to this triple impact economy. So if you're interested to learn more and accelerate systems change, you can join us. I think Caroline has posted the link. And you know, where it is exactly now the hour. So I just really wanted to thank you all again. Thanks to all of our participants. Thanks for the wonderful questions. And I really do hope that we can continue this conversation in various fora over the next few months. And yeah, so thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.